What's going on, everyone? So here's part two of their interview with Shuhei Yoshida. So let's get into this a little bit. I listened to about 5 minutes after this. Some interesting highlights that he's going to go into. One that I found very interesting, but I think this has a lot to do with him still being, you know, I have to say, in sync with Sony in a way, because he's been with them for so long since the beginning. He kind of defends Jim Ryan a bit, in a sense where I think I wouldn't. But then Shuhei's, I'd say he's just a nice, wholesome guy. I mean, I can be too, but I think if somebody gave me an ultimatum, I don't know, man, and they broke apart a bond that we had for about 20 plus years, I wouldn't be too happy about that. But I find it interesting on his takes that he projects about Jim Ryan. Definitely some stuff that was said before, basically making it clear position that he put him in. He also talks about PC, how important that is, how Sony is not going away from PC, and how they're even now still going to be trying to get into mobile and all those sorts of things. So this is some of the key highlights that we're going to be seeing in this second part of the interview. So like I'm described, let me know what you guys think about this. Let's get into it.
Comes out, they might be convinced to purchase, PlayStation for the future. And of course, add additional income, because porting to PC is way, way cheaper than creating the original title.
So you saw what he just said right there. Just starting us off. Porting to PC, this is said before, but now he's clarifying again, is way, way cheaper than making an original title. Why would they stop something that's so cheap and they have a chance of selling even at like a couple 100,000? That's way more money than people can think without spending much resources. And they should optimize games better too. But I think we get this idea like where it's like you got people like worrying about, oh, they pirated this and this. No, they're still making easy money and easy profit. He didn't say anything about China either. I think we know what we're talking about when Reforge's trying to misquote Dustin with a bunch of nonsense. No, it's just in general, PC gaming is good. And you're going to make your most profit right now in the US market. So we can shut all that down and realize he's just trying to, once again, kiss Sony's ass. But getting back to the main thing he just said, porting to PC is very, very easy profit. Why would they stop? Oh, they're going to do it more. And I think a lot of people have been calling that out, and then you got some people that want to cope so bad because they can't stand the fact that Sony is not first party anymore. Like 100%. No, they're third party in a lot of ways, just like Microsoft. Let's just stop being hypocrites about that.
Almost like printing money. And that helps to invest in new titles that the size of investment has increased. So, things have changed. Our policy has changed. Market force has changed. Technology has changed. And so all these things, and in addition, not related to service games, but one thing I really appreciated and respected what Herman and team did was I, for one, had no interest in getting movies or TV show made based on our game IP. If anything, I thought that Hollywood will make a really bad movie based on game IP, right, and kind of tarnish the brand, if anything. That was my thinking. But after I left and Herman and Assad started PlayStation Productions, so many great movies and TV show made, and so the investment to service games and expand games reach by making PC versions. And I understand they are working on some mobile games with partners as well, and creating TV show and movies, good TV shows and good movies. There are lots of new things have been tried, and many of them successful. So I really, really appreciate it. And that's one of the reasons. So I really enjoyed managing first party. I was the president of our studio for 11 years. But
one thing I do have to tell him though is that when they were invested into all those TV shows and movies, and don't get me wrong, I do like the Last of Us TV series. They have more TV shows and movies in production than video games because they've canceled so many. So if you would have been able to have really good video game lineups from Sony, published and developed from their in-house, and have those shows and movies launched at the same time and they all were actually launched and not canceled, then I would have been okay with that. But the fact that those are still okay and the games are not because we're talking about PlayStation here, because there's always good TV shows and movies elsewhere to watch. You know, First and foremost, the most important thing is to get your gaming first party in line. To have the games that people want to play first and foremost, because they're based off of the games. You know what I mean? When you have everybody canceling all their games and there not being any first party, and Microsoft's coming in showing you more love and putting more first party games on your platform this year than you yourself, then yeah, that's kind of embarrassing. That's something I have to say and add in because it's like, yeah, I get what he's saying. That's not necessarily a negative, but it's negative when your gaming lineup is thrown into oblivion and you're still, focusing on that because your developers and your development teams have to get involved in those TV movie shows. They do. Microsoft had that huge hit with Fallout. Look how great that was, right? But yet they're still making games and everything else is going well. So you want that balance. And that's where I feel like, that's out of sync. I don't expect him to say that because he can't just sit there bashing Sony, you know what I mean? So I have to add that in myself. I don't think he's wrong for necessarily saying that. I mean, he's been with Sony for so long, that kind of makes sense.
11 years, the same person
Right.
managing. There's, good things, but,
You did a good job,
I
though.
can only be one person, right? So I look at things from one perspective. So I really enjoyed and I wanted to continue if I had a chance. However, at the same time, I knew back of my head that maybe it's good to have a new person comes in with very fresh ideas and perspective and experience, and especially younger generation like Herman and Scott Lodi. These people come in and try new things. So all that was happening. So people, I got lots of comments on Twitter today after Dean Takashi's article came out that, well, Jim was bad. I do not really think that badly about Jim. If anything, I really appreciate how he helped me to do the indie job and supported for the last 5 years.
Shuhei, no, man. Like I said, what a nice dude, right? And he still has that Sony DNA, like he's still there, right? But let's be real, yo. No, I can't stand the guy. He broke apart so much. Just you've seen it in the last interview, and everybody knows what he did. So even though he did him wrong, he's still being a better person in a certain sense. But at the same time, you shouldn't be defending him. But I understand why he's doing that because it's like I was saying before. But I'm not going to agree with that because no, look at the results. He knows it, but he's still, you know, respecting Sony in a certain way. What do you think they got rid of him and put the new people there? I mean, we all know the truth here. You know what I mean? He knows it too, but no, I'm not letting that pass. And I'm not going to be mean to him too because I like Shuhei. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say anything like that towards him in this video. Like he's a cool guy. You know what I mean? I actually respect him, but I don't respect Jim Ryan.
For the whole company to focus on that.
Yeah, it's well said. And it's interesting because the PC stuff, there's so much there. I've been writing down some of the things you've been saying. The PC stuff I find really interesting because I've been really bullish about. My audience gets mad at me. A predominant number of them get mad at me because I want even more PC push with even single player games day and date, because I think what we're seeing, and I wonder if you have any insight into this, is like you said, these are separate markets. Yeah. And I think that the PC games that Sony releases are actually selling worse than the previous ones. Like Days Gone did really well, and the original Spider-Man and Horizon. They're not doing worse today for any other reason than the novelty, I think, is gone. And it shows that there are really just two groups of people, and they're not necessarily going to migrate. So you might as well just go get them. Is that kind of...
It's because of their behavior, their political behavior, the way they have been doing things with the PSN side. Like, it's Sony's fault that it's like that. And then there's a portion of PC players that are cheap pirates, right? But like I said, that's a portion compared to the higher percentage of Sony and how they handled things, right? There's a balance between both, but the bigger issue is Sony itself.
Kind of what the evidence or what the data shows is that there's not much of a loss to.
And to clarify that even more, it's a perfect example of some of those ports that were released on PC that did not perform well, just even the Spider-Man 2. You're supposed to be getting involved. If you cared so much about your IPs, you would make sure that wouldn't happen. You want to have the highest quality possible. You see the way Microsoft is handling the Forza port? Sea of Thieves and all that, they're making sure it runs better and it's optimized on a pro and everything and give you the best experience because you care about the quality of your product the most. Nintendo's very serious about this. That's what I don't get, where it's like, definitely when it comes to the PlayStation fanboys, it's like, what are you looking at? Sony should have made sure that Spider-Man 2 launch shouldn't have been like that. Right? You know what I mean? Just like a lot of things. Same thing with Last of Us 1, like a remake or a remaster. And then, you know, other games too that had similar issues, Ratchet and Clank Day 1. You should make sure that shouldn't happen. But it does. And because it's so cheap and easy, they just want to take that easy profit. No, you shouldn't be doing that. That's not a way to attract a customer, make a customer respect you and say, oh, I want to get a PlayStation. Like they said, we're not worried about PC players. It's, you know, we're not losing any players putting games on PC. I don't think you're going to want to attract PC players by the way you handle things.
In other words, people think that putting a game on PC means no one's going to want a PlayStation anymore. But I'm like, no, I just don't know that these people were that interested to begin with. And if they are, the only way you can really go and get them is to aggressively go and get them.
Well, so you here, you know that when publishers release games on multi-platforms, especially on PC, the number one market countries their games sell is either US or China. China is a huge PC game market.
See what he said? Either US or China. This was mistranslated when it was kind of posted for a while. Reforge went off on that. Just being an idiot. He was. Saw what he said. And we know what that means.
And China is growing, but still very small console market. And in order to reach audience in countries like China, PC is crucial. PC SKU. Yeah, so I believe, having PC SKU really reach new audience. And after, not, releasing day and day, right? Taking 1 year or 2 years, or sometimes 3 or 4 years after the release of original PlayStation version, I don't think, that hurts. Probably people who have purchased on PlayStation of that game would have purchased already.
I wonder how far you take that logic. A pretty controversial thing was, I thought it was really interesting. I wonder what you guys learned from it, but is releasing Lego Horizon on Switch, which is somewhat unprecedented for the brand. Do you feel now, again, with the new Switch, I tell my audience, I'm like, why not just release the Uncharted trilogy on that? Why not put some older games, Bloodborne or something? Not that that's ever going to be touched again, but do you feel like that logic tracks? Do you think Sony should investigate eventually getting games on other console platforms, older legacy stuff? Or do you think that keeping that walled garden continues to be the best strategy?
I was very excited when I learned that the, Lego Horizon is coming out on Switch. And I felt that especially Lego, game, would be really good fit, on Switch platform. And I didn't see the game becoming a hit product on Switch platform. Part of that might be the, Metacritic score was not that high compared to a couple other Lego games, even though I personally enjoyed playing the game. So it's a bit of disappointment for me. However, I think depending on the type of games, PS Studio should try accessing different kinds of market, especially when that market platform does not feel directly competing with PlayStation platform. So Switch 2 is very interesting. We are kind of anticipating, or we read on the internet that performance of Switch 2 maybe like, PS4 or, could be, better than PS4. So we don't know. But
Right.
if that's the case, all the PS4 generation games from all companies could come out on the platform, right? So the one generation game, third-party games, and potentially Xbox or PlayStation games might come out on the platform. So what that means to the owner of PlayStation, and is Switch to become directly competitive platform? Switch and generation. We felt PlayStation was directly competing with Xbox, but not necessarily Switch. Lots of people owned both platforms and used differently, different times. And of course, Switch attracted to more younger audience and family audience. And there are some distinct type of games came out on to different platforms. But if Switch 2 becomes more core audience platform, what does it mean? It's very interesting to me as well.
Because I
Interesting. So this is my thing about this. Whether they would have said that or not, everybody knows the Switch dominated PlayStation 4. And partially PlayStation 5, and the Switch 2 is going to dominate everything. And it's going to dissect the Xbox and the PlayStation in a sense of you're going to put all their games on their platforms, and they're still going to have all their games there. And they're going to sell more than everybody else. And it's going to be their biggest third-party jump in history. Switch 1 was a bigger third-party jump than the other Nintendo games. Switch 2 is going to be even bigger and get other competitors' games. And he says that he even made that statement that, we could see Xbox games and PlayStation games, 4 games definitely coming to the Switch if it's going to be easily more powerful than a PS4, or just like a PS4 in handheld mode, because that's what was the thing. Docked, it was supposed to be close to the Series S. It's going to have DLSS and all that, so that's pretty obvious. The PS4 games will be running better on the Switch and in handheld. You know what I mean? So, plus the games they're going to be providing, because we know they're the masters of in-house and of the gaming industry. And he makes it very clear that I think that we're not going to just see them as we did with the Switch 1 era, because we didn't see that coming. I think they're going to be the very serious competitor coming on the market. So Microsoft to us is no longer a competitor. That's what he's saying. So that's very interesting. He's making it quite clear that Sony could be putting a lot of PS4 games on the Switch. It's already said, right? You see what I mean? That's being more of a third party and knowing that they're going to be putting their games on PC, because those games on PS4 have been out for years, even a statement that he was saying. So it's going to be interesting to see how they want to increase their publishing, knowing that Microsoft is going to be doing their strategy, and Sony may try to compete against them with that by putting their games on Switch to increase their publishing rights. I think we got some inside stuff right here, y'all. Let's get a little bit more of this interview. Man, there's a lot. We're going to have to do multiple videos on this, but hey, we got some stuff to talk about. And, just to diversify the channel a bit.
I think from the outside, I read, and I think this is somewhat accurate, the way Sony, and you're saying this, is the way Sony looks at Nintendo and Switch 2 is going to be different than the way they look at Microsoft and Xbox. You can even see that with the licensing stuff like Freedom Wars, right? Being revived by Bandai Namco. They didn't put it on Xbox, but they put it on Switch, right? And I looked at that and I'm like, that's so interesting. Or the Metal Gear Solid Delta is going to have the Ape Escape stuff only in the PlayStation version, but not in the Xbox version. And I'm like, so it seems like they still look at that as like, we want to draw a wedge between us and them. But I love what you said about Switch and Switch 2, especially, Shu, because I feel like it's actually the perfect situation for even the hardcore PlayStation fan that's like, I don't want my games anywhere else. It's like, well, you're never going to lose, in quotes, your PS5 games because the Switch 2 won't be able to play them. But everything else, so like Astrobot's not going to go over because it won't be able to work. But Infamous Second Son is just sitting there. Like you could actually extract maybe a few million, tens of millions of dollars in revenue by just selling it over there. I feel like there's no real threat there. And it's something I'd like to see because I just think the Nintendo fan, similar to the PC fan, is somewhat isolated. Like you said, younger, it's a first party machine. It's a platformer machine. There's different kinds of games there. I'm really eager to see if they play ball over there with some of this new stuff. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see the announcement. The Nintendo is planning, beginning of April. One thing, if they have some secret feature of the hardware, because the last announcement, the only surprise to me was like a mice thing.
Right.
And all the other things seems to have been kind of talked about before the announcement. However, they didn't talk about the game lineup. So I'm really, really looking forward to see what kind of games will be announced at the show, and right after, maybe third party will be announcing their games, after Nintendo's shows. So to see the whole lineup of games, how many games are new and how many games are like a ports from, PS4 generation.
Right. Yeah, I'll be interested to see that too. I think they're in great shape. I'm so fascinated. You know what it reminds me of? Do you remember the PS3 Slim took so long to be announced that it started just walking off of off of factory floors and finding its way like unboxed, and people were selling them. Now I'm reading that Switch 2 has actually done this too, and I think people are buying it for like $40,000 or $50,000, like the actual hardware itself.
I saw that.
Yeah, because it's taking so long, and I think the game devs are a little frustrated at this point because I think they were supposed to already be able to show this stuff and they haven't been able to. But since we're talking about this and kind of the cross-platform stuff, I got to ask you.
Yeah,
you guys have, especially during your tenure at first party, Xbox in your sights, right? Very, very staunch competitor, especially in the 360 generation. Big selling games that Killzone and Resistance could never replicate Halo and Gears, for instance, at least in terms of saturation. It must be pretty weird to see their games on your platform now, right? And when I bought Pentiment last year, I think I said out loud, I'm like, this is surreal. Like, this is really weird. And I think it's only going to get more surreal when Halo and Gears and all of these things come over, which I think is going to happen this year. I got to know, what do you think about that? Because that's got to be some strange stuff for you. That's got to be that's a W, right? That's a win. I mean, that's a win.
I suspect Microsoft is the biggest publisher on PlayStation.
Yeah, between really? Minecraft, Call of Duty, Bethesda, and now all of their stuff. Absolutely. No doubt.
Yeah. That's a new time, right? That's a new time. And Microsoft has been working on more, shifting, looks like, they have shifted focus to Game Pass, right? And Game Pass is a service. And I observe that could be coming from the DNA of Microsoft as a company, like a software company and service company and, the cloud-based services like Office 365 everywhere on Macintosh and on mobile.
Right.
So, probably they would want, and they started saying, Xbox everywhere. Probably they are hoping that Game Pass service will become available in the future on all hardware, right? Like, Office service.
Right. That
makes a lot of sense. Because that's how Microsoft did Windows. That's why I said that now it's called Microsoft Gaming. So you know how they work. They want to branch it out. Now it's Microsoft. It's no longer Xbox anymore. And what he said actually makes sense. So that's Microsoft for you, not Xbox Gaming. Very well said. So this is part 2 of the interview. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. We're getting a lot of answers here, and we're kind of peering into what he's saying and kind of reading in between the lines. So just want to do some professional videos here. We got the entertainment and balance too, as you see. So yeah, let me know what y'all think. Gonna keep the show going. All right, y'all. Peace out. Have a great day.